Hello and welcome to Pensions in 10 with me, David Brooks, doing something slightly different this week because of people's holidays, calendars and meetings and things. I'm going alone, so another Pensions 10 on my own. I've only done one of these before, and I've got a hit list of about, what's on my list here, 5 things to update you on, things that some of the times get left on the cutting room floor because there's a big juicy topic flying around, and so we talk about that. So I want to just run through 5 things. I'm going to talk to you very quickly about the state pension and why we should be keeping an eye on the rhetoric around the state pension. We're going to look at StoreFirst and the Serious Fraud Office have charged some people with some criminal offences around storage pods, Data Use and Access Act, the Pensions Ombudsman. I love the Pensions Ombudsman, so I'd like to give you an update on what's going on over there. And finally, an update on what's happening in the world of inheritance tax and pensions. So first up, state pension. I'm not going to go into all the stuff around the Pensions Adequacy Review, which is going to touch on state pensions, and we talked about this last week as well. But I just want to just pick up on a lot of misinformation that goes on around state pension. So you'll see headlines saying the state pension is going to go to 74, all these kind of things. And yeah, maybe one day it will, but it's not going to be any day soon. And I think trustees and employers watching this might want to consider including something in their next member communication to try to sort of take some of the heat out of some of the rhetoric that gets thrown around in the press, especially in the press. Some figures may come out from the IFS which suggest that the triple lock is incredibly expensive, and the OBR likewise saying the triple lock is very expensive, and it is. If it continues as it is, unchanged, into the distant future, it's going to become almost ridiculously expensive for the government to pay for and for us to pay for out of taxes. And so something will have to change. What will change? No one knows. Whether the government will look to recalibrate the actual level of state pension, whether they'll allow it to run for the old basic state pension, which was running from pre-2016, and let that catch up, or just move the state pension age up. No one knows what they're going to do. This is all just noise, and I'm quite sure that the state pension age isn't going to suddenly rise to 74 overnight. It may go to 67, 68, 69, 70 in incremental steps over the next 40, 50 years perhaps, but it isn't going to suddenly go up. So I think that needs to be addressed. The second story I wanted to talk to you about is around StoreFirst. So a few years ago, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, you may have heard about a pension scam going around involving storage pods and people being asked to invest in these. And this looked a little bit like trust busting. So people were taking money out of their pension while investing in these storage pods. And so the Serious Fraud Office has charged a number of people with crimes. These are all going to go through court. So this is all still to be proved in a court of law. But there are questions around how the money was accessed, the type of investments, the information that people were given when they were putting their pensions money into these things, affecting thousands of people and millions of pounds. So it's a big case. We should keep an eye on it. If it proves that this was a scam, it will affect many people's pensions, and it may affect other people's pensions as well who have done other such schemes in other arrangements. So it's something we should keep an eye on, and the court case begins towards the end of August, and so we'll keep an eye on that and see how that goes through the courts. The third thing I wanted to update you on was the Data Use and Access Act 2025. So this has been kicking around for a while, but it's finally become an act, and is a bit of an update to the GDPR and the UK data protection regulations. Nothing massive in the world of pensions, so there's nothing particularly that we need to do anything different about. There are some changes to the way that members may ask for information about themselves, some subject data access requests. There's some changes in there around international sharing of data. So if your administrator or anyone you work with involves international data sharing, then you might need to review your data privacy notices and policies with regards to that. Automated decision making as well. That's something that's coming through a little bit more in the world of pensions. And so we just need to make sure that your data privacy notices and policies are up to date. So you might just want to do a little bit of a review. If you're coming up for your next annual review, I would suggest nothing particularly to bring forward outside your normal review process, but definitely don't overlook that new act, and make sure that your policies are up to date, and also then advise your members if there's what you deem a significant change. The fourth thing I wanted to talk to you about was the Pensions Ombudsman. I do love talking about the Pensions Ombudsman. I think they're a great source of good for the pensions industry, and it's great to hear that they're actually getting a little bit back on track. They had a rocky time through cyber attacks and a weight of complaints that they were hitting them through 23 and 24. But it's great to see that there's been a massive increase in the number of cases they're seeing completed. 42% increases in cases being closed. Number of cases going through quickly is really good as well. And this is particularly good for any trustees and employers that are in the midst of a risk transfer and have had to put that on hold through any complaints that's been going on, perhaps around benefit structures, and you need that resolved before you could go to your insurer or your super fund with any sort of confidence that the data and the benefits are correct. So that will hopefully push things through, and that means in future years the Ombudsman will have more capacity to get the cases through quickly as well. So we're hoping to see this as a positive turning of the corner for the Ombudsman, and that's great news. And finally, for my very quick roundup, I wanted to touch on the inheritance tax. So the HMRC responded to the consultation that they launched probably last year now, can't quite remember, and a bit of a change in tack in there. So previously, the previous consultation put a lot of emphasis on the pension scheme administrator to do a lot of work to establish the level of inheritance tax liability that would be payable from the pension scheme, and then pay that, and then advise the personal representatives of what that is. That has now been flipped, so it's much more on the personal representative side. And this is going to be a big impact on personal representatives. I don't think that's in any doubt at all. There's a lot of work for people to have to do to collate information from the pension scheme administrators of all pension schemes and other assets that individual who's passed away has, and make sure they're assessed appropriately, and then pay that tax with a little bit of liaison back with the pension scheme administrator again. So the bit of a scheme pays type facility. So the scheme might be asked to pay the inheritance tax liability for the member. So there's a little bit of change to some processes there that we'll need to understand. Also, some of the timescales are still quite short. I think that's probably the biggest area of concern for everybody involved on the pension side, especially, as you get 6 months to pay the tax from the moment the person has passed away. And that doesn't happen even in some of the most simplest of cases, just because of the way the probate system works, because of time it takes to assess all different benefits from all different sources. Sometimes there's issues with data, there's issues with tracking schemes down. People don't even know what schemes they're in. Hopefully this will improve with dashboards in the future, but for the time being, this could cause some issues. So while I think this is now the direction of travel we're going in, I don't think that they're going to change the process massively. I would hope HMRC have a little think about the timescales and consider whether they should be elongated slightly, so it's not seen as putting pressure on people and then being a windfall. It's never masses of money, but it's the principle of the thing. But not seen as being a windfall for HMRC, getting tax from late payment and then interest, just because the process took longer than it should have, through no fault of anybody, other than that's just the way life goes sometimes. It's not trying to avoid or delay paying the tax. The other big change that came in there was around death in service. So previously, death in service lump sums were caught by the inheritance tax, and the change in heart has been pinned on the difference between discretionary and non-discretionary benefits in two different regimes. I welcome it more just because I think it's not a transfer of wealth. The person, if you die, and there's not many people, thankfully, who die whilst they work, but it does happen, unfortunately, and it's not a wealth transfer. These people aren't deliberately storing up wealth at anything. This is a means to help people during the worst period of their life, when they potentially have children, young children, partners, and mortgages, and these kind of things that need to be managed. And death and service lump sum is integral to that protection for people, to ensure that they can continue living in their home and continue their lives after the loss of a loved one. So I'm very pleased that is now no longer an inheritance tax liability. There we go. 5 quick topics. Just wanted to touch on. Some of these have happened a few weeks ago, but they get kicked out of the normal running of the Pensions in 10. So join me next week when I'm sure I'll have someone to my left or right. I never know how or where the person sits, but I'll have someone with me and we'll talk you through what's been going on in the world of pensions over this week. And please do share if you see this on LinkedIn. If you get these in any other way, we share them on YouTube and we put them on. We have a subscriber list. So if you want to get on that, then do go to the Broadstone website, find our little drop down, find Pensions in 10, and you can subscribe from there and get these dropping into your inbox every week. And I look forward to seeing you next time.